Hello again, YouTube modeling community. Welcome to Moore's Custom Model Shop and the second episode of the Old Pro Show. Today we're going to deal with engine painting. Painting engines has always been something that, well, I just love detailing engines. I love working on them, so on like that. Back in the day, let's better keep them glasses on. Back in the day, up till about the mid 70s, manufacturers all used a company color for their engines. You had things like here's Ford and GM engine blue. Here is Ford engine light blue. Chevy engine red. Ford engine blue. There's Olds engine blue. There is Pontiac engine blue. It's a light blue metallic. And of course here's Chrysler engine red, Hemi orange or Hemi red they call it. There were also the old flathead Fords were mostly in a dark green color. The early Oldsmobile engines were painted gold. It just, various manufacturers chose a color and painted all the engines in their, about the same color, or sometimes a certain engine group like the Hemis were a different color than, say, the regular wedge engines. About mid 70s, late 70s, they stopped doing that. I guess anytime you can save money on paint and labor, that's profit. So they stopped doing that, and all engines now are just in the base colors that the engines come in. Back 30 some years ago, I built this little stand right here to mount an engine on for spraying. This is the engine out of the Tom Daniels build. You can see I've already sprayed it. I'm actually using that bright orange. It's a custom, so it doesn't have to be any particular color. But when I paint this engine, it's going to stay like that. I'm going to use a yellow bell housing on it, because Lakewood puts out a bell housing a lot of racers use on those engines. And so a yellow Lakewood bell housing, your aluminum transmission, steel on your linkage rods. You pick out the individual pieces and make them stand out with different colors. White or a different shade of orange on the oil filter. Black or a dark gray or something along those lines on the starter. Just a lot of little details like that you can pick out. You can actually go through, and the little bolts on the heads here, you could touch each one of those with a toothpick of silver and pick the bolts out. Really make that engine stand out. There's a lot of things like that you can do with an engine that's painted like that. You paint the extra pieces on it, the parts, a different color to make them stand out. Really adds interest to your engine when you open the hood and look underneath. Another thing on like these I like to do, I've got, and you can buy them from Gopher or Slicks, either one, oil filter decals to put on there, and that adds an extra interest to it. One thing I wish one of the decal manufacturers, Slicks, Gophers, you guys listening, I wish they would come out with a sheet of labels for starters, generators, alternators, voltage regulator boxes, so on like that. Just a sheet of like Delco Ramey or what is it, Ford's Autolite, different things like that to put on there. I'd buy them in a heartbeat if they'd make them, because they really add interest to your builds and brighten up your engine compartment. What I do now is I save decals, every extra decal, every piece that I can find, because sometimes I'll use something on on an engine box in an engine compartment or something, just a piece of a decal, just cut off a little corner of it with a little color and maybe a word or a letter or something on it. When I was at Atlanta, I bought some of the, and they're very hard to come by now, Scale Modeling by Chris. Chris used to put out a series of decals, spark plug lettering, little lines of lettering that you laid on the spark plugs. Now, I don't think with my physical abilities anymore that I could put those on spark plugs, but they're little words in black or white, so you could cut them up and put them on voltage regulators, electrical boxes, computer boxes, breaker boxes, just little things just to add some interest to those areas of your engine compartment. Now when it comes to painting modern engines, since they're all just, everything's just bare metal, most people just do like this one did, whoever built this engine, just paint it all silver, let it go. Paint the belts black, forget about it. You know, well, that's all right, but myself, I like to add more interest and bring out the different parts of the engine when I'm doing this. I will take like this engine right here. This is an engine for a Honda Civic that I'm getting ready to build, and I will paint the block, say the block itself, aluminum, then come back with a gray or a black wash and put in there to bring out the details and dull it down a little bit. Then I'll come in and I'll paint the alternator here a different shade, say an anthracite gray or something like that, and that'll make that stand out. Make the front cover here, say make that out of steel. Make your oil pan down here an exhaust or some other kind of metallizer, just something different. Same thing with the transmission. Maybe the bell housing one color metallizer, the transmission itself another color of metallizer. You know, you put all those various colors on there, and it looks like a group of parts instead of one piece. It makes it look more detailed, more intricate. Years and years ago, I bought Shep Payne's books. I don't know if any of us ever read any of his books or not, but he had a saying that you don't have to put every detail into a model. Just make it look like you did. And that's the idea of painting all these different colors like that. Now these pieces here were plated, but you know, that's just not the way they would look on the real car. This will go on, I think it goes on about like this right here. Maybe it goes on this side. Anyway, yeah, that's your main breather intake. Of course, this is like a K&N filter, and that'll be painted in, I think those come in like blues and pinks, and then the rings around will be black. And then your tube here, some of them are plastic, and you'll make them like a semi-gloss black. If they've got the rubber look to them like they're hoses, then I'll paint them a lot of times with rubber or a dark gray. Say the intake itself here, that'll be another shade of metallizer, possibly asphalt or exhaust shade. Now, your exhaust manifold here, what I do with them a lot of times is because they rust fast, and I'll paint them with rust and then come back and dry brush with steel or aluminum one to add, or just a plain silver, just to add little highlights to it. Your drive here for your alternator, it's the only belt that's on this one. I'll paint my pulleys a steel and then my belt black. Usually a flat black or a rubber. You can use either one. Another thing you can do with them little decals I was talking about from Chris, you could actually put lettering on the sides of the belts. If they're wide enough to put those letterings on, you put the letterings on. Another little detail that will make it stand out. Now on this particular model, the find it here. the main top of it, the valve cover, what have you, is chromed. Well, the internet is a great thing. Look up these engines online and hit images, and it'll show you all kinds of engines and images of these engines. And I noticed with this particular type valve cover, this part right through the center is a cover that goes over your plug wires. So you would bring your plug wires out the end of this valve cover, and this is actually your distributor right here. So you just bring 4 plug wires out and stick them in there, and you're done. The ones I saw on the internet, this was actually flat black or a semi-gloss black, and this piece right through the center was actually a screen on those, had little holes in it. So what you'd do there is you'd paint this 2 different shades of black and make it stand out. This here would have some steel, and the cap itself would be black, and with all those different colors. And then find you some kind of, like one of those little scale modeling by Chris decals, put it right along here, the little words. You can't read them in that scale anyway, so it's something to add interest. But you can do a lot of different things with the paint like that. And on hand, I always keep metallizers, like there's aluminum. Here is dark iridine gray or something like that. I've got just silver. I've got engine silver. There's asphalt. Here is steel, brass or copper, brass. You know, there's a lot of things, a lot of different colors in an engine compartment. Here's another kind of steel, white. A lot of exhaust made in white. There is this is exhaust right here color. It's a dark blackish looking color. I use it for a lot of things. It's a blackish gray. Then you got flat black, and you got black chrome trim, which is a nice semi-gloss black. You've got rust, and I've even got some Tamiya acrylic silver. So, you know, I'll put 5 or 6 of those colors on a little engine like this in order to bring out all the little details of that engine. And then I'll stick any little decals I can find on that engine. And that way when you raise your hood, you don't just see one solid color or a blob of silver in the middle of a bunch of black stuff. You know, I like to, on my engine compartments like this, you know, add a lot of different colors, the wiring, the plumbing, and the battery, you know, things that make it stand out. And that's the way I do my engine compartments and the way I paint the engines. You can spray, you can brush, you can do whatever you want to, is what's within your parameters as far as what you can do with putting the paints on. You can brush on the metallizers. They are thin, and they will run a little bit if you're not real careful. But you'll notice on most of these engines, there's stopping points that'll stop it from running. So it only goes so far. So you can do metallizers on those all day long. Makes a nice looking little engine when you're done. It'll just look so much more interesting than just plain silver like that. And just like I said with this one, yellow bell housing, aluminum transmission, white on your oil filter, black on your starter. You know, all that will add interest. And I will find, you know, little bits of decals in that box and stick a little emblem on the side of that. I've got oil filter decals, you know. I've even got some radiator decals for putting on radiators and cars like that are custom CNR or Griffith radiators. Just anything to add a little decal, a little detail, and make the things pop out. I tell my grandsons all the time when they're building that the main thing is to make it yours. Do something to the model when you build it that nobody else is going to do. And, just make it different. That way, your work stands out, because this is all about creativity and releasing that creative energy that's in everybody. So that's the next episode of the Old Pro Show, just to give you an idea of how I detail these engines and paint them up. I'm working on this little Honda Civic at the same time I'm working on the Tom Daniels build, and no tuner. I've actually got one display case in there on the wall that so far is nothing but tuners, and I've got just enough to fill it up with tuners. So that's all for right now. Got a show coming up on the 21st in White Pine. Gonna go down to that one. I know Chip and Lisa will be there, and hope to see any of you down there that can make it. That is getting to be a good sized show down there. It's a nice show. Got a real car show and models all at the same time, so best of both worlds. For this Tuesday, I thank you for watching. Comment, subscribe, let me know what you think about my ideas. If you have any questions, now I mentioned washes earlier. Now I keep things around like the rust, the black, and somewhere here I've got a gray in the detailer. Chip keeps that over at Extreme Scale. That stuff's good for washes like that. You don't want to always use a black wash. Sometimes a little bit different color wash brings things out. But that's all for right now. Thank y'all for watching. Good night.